It's my pleasure today to welcome Reverend Myo-O Habermas-Scher, who practiced with Katagiri Roshi from 1975 until his death in 1990. She also trained for 12 years in the Vipassana tradition. She received Dharma transmission in 2012 here at Hokyoji from me. Myo-O is a master movement teacher and teaches somatically based vocal training. In 2021, she retired after 14 years as an interfaith staff chaplain at the University of Minnesota Medical Center at Fairview. She's also a mom and a grandmother to two little grandsons. I don't know how long ago you wrote this bio, but I'm just worrying about the second two there. And a grandmother to two little grandsons. So I wonder if they're still little. That's my point. Anyway, I'll let you address that, as I'm very happy to hand this over to Myo-O Habermas-Scher. Thank you for being with us, Myo-O, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say today. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Because I turned myself off to myself. So okay. Laura, are you going to be visible? I invite you to be visible. I guess not. Okay.
I should mention that we are video recording this, so if there's people who do not want to have their images recorded,
Okay.
remain. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. Hi, Jodo-san. Well, one thing is, I want to wish you all a happy new year, L'Shana Tova. So I've been, my life has been pretty full. So I needed to name that. The name of my talk today is I Won't Say. Last week on September 8th, our dear friend, KU, helping to edify wisdom, Ken Ford, passed away. Ken had been declining for many years, so it was a very long decline. And he was with his wife, Barbara, and his daughter, Sarah, and his son, Ben, who sang him out of this world. They were singing a song called How Can I Keep From Singing? Maybe you might know that song. It's kind of famous. So Ken was introduced to Zen around actually he started by reading Alan Watts when he was a teenager. And then he met Shokin in 1976, according to Barbara. And then in the late 80s, he retired from being a city planner and threw himself into Zen practice completely with Katagiri Roshi and then at Clouds and Water. And he was very involved at Hokyoji in all sorts of ways. Also being the president of the board at Hokyoji and keeping us on track. And I was on the board for a while. I can tell you that wasn't necessarily an easy job. He was a very good friend to me and a Dharma brother. he invited me one time to be the Zen representative at the Interfaith Seder at Temple of Aaron in St. Paul, which he had done previously. And I gave a talk or a drash on jumping off the 100-foot pole as being equivalent to Nashon's walking into the Red Sea until it was up over his nose before it parted. At that time, I was literally claimed by his interfaith tech study group, who were at that event, as one of their own. So Ken, John, David, Jan, sometimes Rabbi Allen, and Ira, who passed away, have met once a month for about 15 years to study text in 3 traditions: Jewish, Christian, and Buddhist. Also, for a number of years, I left work to pick Ken up so we could both go to Clouds and Water for a teacher study group on the Ehe Koroku. Then I would bring him home and go back to work. So because Ken has been slowly failing, because he died, and because his wife Barbara asked me to help with his memorial service at Unity Unitarian Society next Tuesday, he is much on my mind and heart. So I think why this koan we're going to look at jumped into my mind. It's Dao Wu's condolence call, Blue Cliff Record, case 55. It's pretty well known, but anyway. Here's the story. Dao Wu and Qian Yuan went to a house to make a condolence call. Okay, I'll explain later. But anyway, they went to a house to make a condolence call. Yuan hit the coffin and said, "Alive or dead?" Dao Wu said, "I won't say alive, I won't say dead." Yuan said, "Why won't you say?" Dao Wu said, "I won't say." On their way back home, Yuan said, "Tell me not right now, teacher. If you don't tell me, I will hit you." Dao Wu said, "You may hit me, but I won't say." Yuan then hit him. Later, Dao Wu passed on. Yuan went to Sichuan and told him the whole story. Then Yuan asked Sichuan the same question. Sichuan said, "I won't say alive, I won't say dead." Yuan said, wait, this isn't right. I guess I typed it wrong. "I won't say alive, I won't say dead." At these words, Yuan had an insight. One day, Yuan took a hoe into the teaching hall and crossed back and forth from east to west and west to east. Shuang said, "What are you doing?" Yuan said, "I'm looking for relics of our late master." Shuang said, "Vast waves spread far and wide, foaming billows flood the skies. What relics of our late master are you looking for?" Yuan said, "This is just where I should apply effort." And this other guy, Fu of Tai, Yuan said, "The late master's relics are still present." Well, this isn't in my talk, but just as I was reading that, I just came up this memory of after Katagiri Roshi died, I had a couple of unusual experiences. I'm not going to tell the first, but I'll tell the second one, which was Michael O'Neill Genpo came over with this thing that I was supposed to read at a ceremony that they had many months after Katagiri died, and all the big hoo-has had come to Minneapolis, and all the priests, and I wasn't a priest, but she wanted me to do the lion's roar at the end of this thing. So I was like, wow, you want me to read this? Okay, so I went into my studio and I put it on my music stand, and I thought, okay, I want to make sure I pronounce everything right, and I want to, know what I'm doing. So I need to work on this. So the first word was Katagiri's death poem. And so the first word in that was I. And I couldn't say it because every time I tried to say I saw Katagiri on one end of a football field and Suzuki Roshi on the other. And I had no business in that field. So I was kind of freaking out, and I just hit a wall. Like I couldn't say the first word. So I threw myself in on my bed crying, and all of a sudden, as clear, I mean, really clearly, I heard Katagiri say, literally heard him say, "You are light. This is really impossible for you, but please do it anyway." And then I started laughing. And I said, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be dead." And then I went back in my studio and worked on it. So, alive or dead? I won't say. I won't say. Anyway, that just popped for me. Okay, so I've been studying this case, and there are lots of pathways in this case that are very interesting. Just sorting out the familial connections between the teachers and disciples is fascinating. But right now, with Ken, how does this strike us? Because many of us on this call actually knew Ken. So I'm not going to get all up in the academic, theoretical permutations of what's here. But what happens within us when we hear this story? Like, can we deeply empathize with all the voices? So the last time I saw Ken, it was about 10 days before he died. We sat outside in the sunlight and there were flowers. And he was very bright in recognizing my face and John, one of the tech study buddies' face, because we went together. He would be present, and then he would kind of trail away into a litany of troubles about what he didn't like, the food and this and that, or where he was staying. And then we would kind of like bring him out again. He couldn't stand up, but he really wanted to do that. And when I left, we bowed head to head, kind of Tibetan style, head to head, full of affection for each other. So I'm so grateful. That's the last image in my heart of being with him. Now, in my case, I've had the opportunity, I would say good fortune, to be with quite a number of people when they passed away or right after they passed away because of my job as a chaplain. So it's not quite as alarming for me as it might be for other people if they haven't had that opportunity. Like Dozen, you probably have had that opportunity because of your job. But even so, like Yuan, if I'm present with myself, there's always a shock there. And from that shock, the impulse is to kind of move away. And I wonder, maybe it's like this for you too, if you've had that chance. So in Zen practice, we have this great gift of putting ourselves in the way of a training of being willing to allow this moment, to allow the moment, to really take it in and lovingly observe the movements of the mind and the heart and the body, just right there. What is happening? Where has Ken gone? Where was Ken when he was alive? Where were we? So really, I ask you, because Mary too, she was a nurse. I want to ask you, actually, if you have moments like that you'd like to share together right now, before I go on more. You don't have to, but if there's something you want to say.
Well, I can tell the story of my father dying. I was with him, and our whole family was. My brother, not my brother, because he had died previously, but my sister and mother were there. And I had, been an oncology nurse, so I had been with people who had died. It was not uncommon. And he did this kind of exhalation, and then he stopped breathing. It was kind of a more deeper exhalation than usual. And he stopped breathing, and I was kind of looked at him, and he didn't inhale for maybe 30, 40 seconds, something like that. And then I looked at Mom and my sister, and I said, Dad's passed away. And then all of a sudden he goes, and then he actually did pass away. But my thought was, this is the relationship between my father and me. It's like, you're not going to be the person who's going to pronounce me dead, buddy. So I said, okay, I'm out of it. I'm not going to, I'll just let things go the way they want to go. Well, it was really kind of, it seemed like a real metaphor for our relationship. And there was nothing imaginary about it in my mind. So that was my experience with my father. And I wasn't present for my mother. Actually, at the moment, I wasn't present for either my mother or sister's death. So anyway, that's just a little story that stuck with me. As far as my other experiences on the oncology ward, I basically just seemed to understand, as I saw different people die, that it seems like you die about the same way you live. If you're an anxious, a tense person, you're probably going to be anxious and tense when death is coming close to you. And there were other people who just were kind of calm and easy about life, and they seemed to just pass away quietly. Now, I don't know. It's just a little theory I have. Haven't done any research on it or anything. It's just kind of where I'm sitting right now. So anyway, those are my stories. Thank you for.
Did anyone else want to say anything about a moment for them? You can say it later, or we can go on. I'll go on unless you wave your hands around. So one time I was away at a workshop for work, and I nearly choked to death at our first meal. Luckily, I was in a room filled with doctors and nurses. So I observed my body wishing to panic because I couldn't breathe. I remember counseling myself to slow down. Finally, one of the nurses used the Heimlich and saved me. Another nurse took me for a walk and gave me breathing lessons. The experience was literally shocking and took the whole weekend to digest. When I arrived home, I sat in the living room and imagined the house without my energy in it. I let myself take that in, that drained away quality. This is real. Yuan was really freaked out by the potential loss of himself. Where will I go? What will happen? He was so obsessed that he allowed himself to be rude, knocking on the coffin while making a visit to a lay teacher of his student who had died. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is not done. And maybe Dawu brought him there to help him work with this issue, this part of himself that he needed to really get intimate with. Katagiri Roshi says this. He sees Dawu as saying, I couldn't tell you, even if I wanted to. Why not? Because he is neither living nor dead. Both life and death are concepts which were subsequently created by human beings. All words are merely compromises. There is nothing to understand. The corpse is just lying there. From the essential standpoint, there is a world which does not change, regardless of the unfolding of phenomena. Viewed in terms of that which lives, from the beginningless past to the endless future, there is neither life nor death. This alive or dead is the same as being or not being. From the phenomenal standpoint, it is there, but from another standpoint, there is nothing at all. Not a speck of cloud obstructing the view. These two aspects of having and not having must be clearly grasped, together with the fact that they are intrinsically the same thing. Dawu is saying, I won't tell you, or rather, I cannot tell you. Realize it for yourself. So, here we go in the Zen language, to say that life and death are both concepts sounds kind of intellectual, right? I mean, it is. That's a construct. But for this to penetrate our being, there needs to be a softening, a dropping back and down, and allowing in our flesh, literally in our flesh, a shift in the kinesthetic tone of our being. Yuan needs to make intimate contact with the part of himself that is holding this question. That's the work of it. This is just where I should apply effort, the line at the end of the koan. There's a psychological viewpoint, should I say, it's called IFS, Internal Family Systems. And they have a language of talking about parts. Like, I have a part that blah, blah, blah. I have a part that's Hungarian and loses its temper, which is, I do have a part like that. So we could say, using that language, that part for Yuan, like he may have other parts that are very steady, but this one thread, he needs to become very intimate with. So I don't think Zen is about teachers hoarding secret knowledge from struggling people. In this story, Yuan is framing his teacher's response in that kind of a way. He is hopelessly begging Dao Wu to tell him what the hell he really means. What do you mean? Tell me. Well, I did this once. I didn't hit my teacher. But in Dokusan, after this person bowed me out and stood up to get rid of me, I grabbed onto the hem of their robe and begged for help in penetrating a koan about Guishan and Witiamo. Of course, whatever, kind of like whatever Dao said as a response to Yuan's question would totally miss the mark, because Yuan presented the issue as alive or dead, this or that. He presented his pain honestly, but as long as he framed it only in the way of taking one side, he was stuck. And this is so human. So we are Yuan, we are Dao Wu, maybe both at the same time sometimes. Suppose we, as Dao Wu, had an answer for us as Yuan. Is Ken alive or dead? Is he in some sort of heaven or in the bardo? What is happening here? Even if we could name that, if we could pin it down, then what? Do we suppose we could escape the Sacred Heart of Grief by doing that? It's this, that's kind of how we tend to be. But it doesn't give us surcease or insight. Yamada Roshi wrote this. Xishuang says, on the billows of the great ocean, white caps swell to the sky. He is not, okay, this is just a simile for our everyday lives. White caps swell to the sky. On the great ocean of our essential nature, the waves rise and fall continuously, standing up, sitting down, sleeping and rising, eating and drinking. Where are the bones of Ken to be found? Where are we going to look for him, if not in the sitting, standing, sleeping, rising, eating and drinking, which are the waves on the great ocean of our essential nature? We could also add mountains and rivers, grasses and trees, the entire phenomenal world. There is not a single thing which is not the remains of Ken. Yamamoto Genpo Roshi, whenever anyone died, would say, he was not born, neither did he ever die. She is gone nowhere. She is right here. Don't ask him. He will not answer. That makes me remember something. Maybe I should say this in this group, but after Don died, my husband, one of my colleagues at work, to my shock and amazement, gave me the name of a psychic that she worked with when she gets stuck. And I thought, what the heck, So I talked to her, and that was interesting. It was very interesting. And then not this summer, but last summer, we brought his ashes up to in Minnesota, way, because I don't know where everyone's from, but way up to the Canadian border. There's a lake called Gunflint Lake, which we've been going to every summer for like 40 years. And so we went up on the high cliffs, and my grandsons came, and my daughter and my daughter-in-law and some friends. And we put Don's ashes over the cliff. Now, we had done that with my mother-in-law's ashes, and when we climbed up there, I said to Don, "Your mother's here." And Don said, "Yeah, I know." This was like years and years ago. But this time I said to my daughter, "Your dad wasn't here." And she said, "I know." So I called up the psychic and I said, "Where's Don? Where is he?" And she said, "He didn't show up. I thought he would show up because his grandsons were there." And he's very attached too. He only met one of them, but and she said, she said, "Oh, he's saying that was for you. It wasn't for him." And I said, "Oh my God, that sounds just like Don." She said, "He's very busy, way out there doing whatever." I was like, "Okay, thank you." So, Yamada says, I'm sorry, Yamamoto Genpo Roshi says, "Even when the body passes away, nothing at all is missing. Even when the body passes away, nothing at all is missing." So when I read that, I went, yeah, I don't know why that's right, but that's right. That's right. So, but I want to caution us here because nothing at all is missing, and intimacy with grief as it arises and is intimately known cannot be bypassed without great danger to our being. This can be the danger of these words that point to freedom and profound truth. So now it's kind of cool to say, well, it is what it is, which really pisses me off when I hear that, because you can say things are just as they are as a way to come back to as they are. But just to say, oh, it is what it is, that's mean. That's like, yeah, get over it. No. It's about intimacy. So my understanding and experience is that the actual embodied knowing of grief does not sully insight, right? So we don't just go, "Oh, yeah, I don't have any brokenheartedness. I don't have any wanting something that isn't available in the same way that it was." So I think we should be careful. Can we hold that insight that nothing at all is missing, but not jump over? So I won't say sad. I'm talking about myself with Ken. I won't say free. And I want to read you this capping verse that this guy named Richard von Sturmer wrote. He co-founded the Auckland, New Zealand Zen Center with his wife and is an artist, poet, playwright, filmmaker, and musician. He studied with Katagiri Roshi in Rochester, New York. Okay, so this is his poem. It's called Dao Wu's I Won't Say. I won't say if the sperm fertilizes the egg, although the moon is above and the earth is below. I won't say where the crow sleeps at night, although the wind is cold and the snow is wet. I won't say tenderness. I won't say forgetfulness. I won't say. So I want to end by a poem by Wendell Berry. Oh my gosh, Wendell Berry is mind-blowing. So this is a poem actually that Ken and Barbara, his wife, sent me when my husband passed away in 2020. He goes free of the earth. The sun of his last day sets clear in the sweetness of his liberty. The earth recovers from his dying, the hallow of his life remaining in all his death leaves. Radiance knows him. Grown lighter than breath, he is set free in our remembering. Grown brighter than vision, he goes dark into the life of the hill that holds his peace. He's hidden among all that is and cannot be lost. So that's all I have to say. And I invite anything you want to say. Jodo-san, just unmute yourself.
Well, Katagiri Roshi used to say, let me know if you remember this or not. He used to say, when you die, the whole world dies with you, which was like a big shock. And I interpreted it some as our understanding is like life's a stage and we show up and then end, but from what he's saying, the whole world dies with you. It's like, no, life is not a stage like that. So it seems almost like the mirror image of no birth, no death, but I think it's saying the same thing, that since we're kind of stuck in this projection, that projection dies. I don't know. Is anybody, can you anyone comment on that? Or maybe it doesn't die. Maybe we go off and who knows what happens afterwards. Maybe we're still projecting out in the bardos.
Well, I'll make a comment. So you said, Gary said, when you die, the whole world dies with you. Maybe he's saying that because the way I would ordinarily think about things is when I die, the whole world's going to go on. It makes you feel like, don't I make any difference? Isn't everyone just going to stop? Everyone in the world just for a minute, and no, that's not going to happen. Yet, so maybe he's saying it to show us another side of things. And I don't think you could say that without saying when you're born, the whole world is born with you. So it's like two sides of the same coin, kind of just because that's not our normal understanding. If we think about it, say, oh, the world was here and I was born into it, And when I die, the world's not going to care that much. But it's egocentric. The whole thing is centered around me. So I think that's what he might be getting at, Jodo-san. That's my opinion. Thank you.
So Kikan Mike Howard has been doing these transcriptions, and Genpo Michael O'Neill is going to Japan. So Michael asked Kikon if he would do a Buddhist studies class for this fall. And so Kikon's been really working on the Karma series that Katagiri gave in 1980, and then a kind of a capping lecture in 1987. So I've been reading these because I agreed to assist, whatever that means. And so I was kind of amazed that one of the first lectures on karma deals a lot with dying, because apparently one of the reasons people worry about karma is because they don't know what's going to happen after they die. So of course they have this concern. So, but over and over again in these lectures, he talks about how we're doomed because we find ourselves in this world, and it doesn't make sense, and we can't make sense of it, and we're never going to make sense of it. But what I find really delightful about these lectures is just how warm and personable and funny and how much research and effort Katagiri put into this. When you finally have those lectures on a piece of paper, I can finally see the organization, and it makes so much difference. That didn't happen when I was listening, or it didn't even happen when I'm reading it off my iPad or whatever. So I was deeply affected, of course, by my wife's death. So there was that instance when overnight, suddenly not suddenly, but one organ system after another is failing, and then there's no urine in the urine bag, and you say, "Oh God, this is we're really getting close to the end here," and that was close to the end. But the hardest time, it wasn't the moment of death where she's not just breathing. It's when her father worked for a funeral home in Sauk Rapids, and Sandy's sister was here, and we called them up, and they came right away. And the hardest part for me was when they took the body away, because there was always this kind of presence, even when she was gone, that she wasn't gone. Mm-hmm. There's still this body here. And then Sandy's sister and I sat at the funeral home for the cremation, which was, they'd never had anybody ask for that before. So they couldn't let us sit inside the building, but they let us sit right outside the building. It was a beautiful day in May. It was just starting to get warm, and we just sat there quietly for the time of the cremation. But I will say this, that all these people who have died, my parents, my brother, Sandy, they show up in my dreams in great detail of who they were. It's not just me projecting. I don't think I could project that well that they are that person, especially Sandy, because I knew her so well, but I don't think even then, I don't think I could be as precise as she is when she shows up in these dreams. So I'm not sure about this whole alive or dead thing. My parents are very quiet in the dreams. My brother, in some ways, we were really close growing up together. And in some ways, then we drifted apart. And in some ways, the dreams are a way for us to reconnect, which is really, I'm not sure what's going on there, but something's going on there. So I just want to add that to alive or dead. It's something we're not going to be able to make sense of. So just allow ourselves, as you say, allow ourselves to be with that. We're not going to make sense of it. Just be with what it is.
I'm still okay. You know, in some cultures, not our culture particularly, but in some cultures, indigenous cultures, those dreams are seen as very valid, you know, part of the continuum of living and real, so to say. You know, we because of our training, I think we want to figure out the science. You know, like, how is this happening? What is it? Where's it coming from? It's your unconscious. It's your this. It's your that. But who cares? Really? So what? You know, is it a message from, you know, in some cultures it's like, of course, you know, you're getting, you know, they're communicating with you. Duh. You know, so again, which is the true one? Who cares? I guess that's where I'm at. It's all the true one. You know, it's in this moment, intimacy. You know, the mind wants to like create the PhD thesis about what this moment is. That's just what it does. But that's it. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. Mary.
When it comes to death, I can always say something.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love this saying there's escaping the sacred heart of grief. Oh my gosh.
I have to be honest that the tech study group, which is shrinking, met on Friday. We didn't study any texts other than the text of our own grief. There are four of us, me, Jan, John, and David. And I talked to them about, you know, I'm trying to write this talk. And that particular line came from David Hawkinson. So I thought, yes, that's right, David, thank you. So, yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Well, thank you. I wrote that down among other things, but I know everyone on this in this Sangha this morning. I know you all have had experiences with death. Somehow, loved one, friend of friend. I don't know. I know. So I want to speak just about my own experience. First of all, I'm still struggling with the sort of the Buddhist way of thinking about death. That's a struggle for me. I know from my reading that the Buddha, I left away from my reading that he had said to everyone who was always talking about the metaphysical and God and all of that, you know, he just said, well, it's indeterminate. He never tried to answer it. And that has really, really soaked into my bones reading that. Because for me, from a Christian background, that's never the answer. That is never the answer. So that has been mind-blowing to me. So personally, this is a very self-centered thing. Okay, my fear of death isn't really pain and all that. It's FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't want to miss out. And so I really have a deep fear of missing out. When my mother died, I was 9 years old. She completed suicide. She did it by drowning.
Oh my God.
And her body was found 2 years later.
My God.
She still had her hospital bracelet on. The plastic hospital bracelet was still on her arm. So of course I never saw her, but I have read her of the autopsy. When my sister died of breast cancer at 46, I had been with her many times in the months before her death. And when she was in hospice at her house in Eden Prairie, I was at home at the time, and my sister called and said, "Here, get on. Jane's really, she's really struggling here." So I got in my car, and I had just seen her the day before, but she had fallen out of bed, and got my car, chased down there, got there, and then we all were surrounding her in her bed, and she was really struggling to breathe. And she had oxygen, she had her morphine, and she had everything, but you could tell she was really, she was struggling, her, I don't know, mentally, okay? She wasn't calm at all. And I said to her, because I was her closest sister, I said to her, "Jane, we're all here. You can go now. You can go now." And she relaxed and she died. I think it wasn't me saying that, but somebody needed to give her permission at that point. And she then died. Of course, we sat there for hours before the body was taken, and that was a beautiful, absolutely beautiful, sacred time for my family. My dad died suddenly, and I was very close to him. He was 75, and I was like in my 30s. And he had fallen at a family on a family trip, and then he had passed out, and they transferred him by ambulance to a hospital in Minneapolis, and I had to go home, and anyway, wanted to get back to the hospital to see him. My sisters were at the hospital, and he arrested and died suddenly. So again, I'm en route to see him. He dies, but I get there, and they allowed us to be with his body in the hospital. I laid down right next to him. He was still warm, and I just hugged him, held his hand, and he was everything to me. That really was powerful. I just laid down right next to him. And it was sacred. Those were all sacred times. I think this is the last thing I'm going to say. For myself, those were times, and afterwards, of course, and he appeared to me in a dream, 2 days later with the bright lights and everything, and he said it's all okay, and it was just amazing. And so I get a chant the dreams. They're powerful, and I believe they're real. But the last thing I want to say is that I think grief is, well, for me, grief is just so part of life. And it's not just death, it's loss. We're dealing with it all the time. And grief is sacred. I'm sad today for another reason, for another person that is ill right now. I'm grieving. It's just natural. At least for me.
Mary, thank you. I'm just going to end with this story that I don't know. I must have read it or something. Anyway, it's not about me. There was a Zen master, a woman, and her granddaughter died. Maybe you've heard this story. Her granddaughter died, and she went in her back garden and was just howling with grief. And one of her students or whatever, came over with some food or something and saw her in the backyard, just sobbing, carrying on. And this person said, wow, I thought you were like going to be equanimous and you understand life and death and, geez, kind of like that. And the Zen teacher said, my howling is helping my granddaughter more than any of that. And I just loved that. I don't know where I heard the story or read the story, but I'm with her. That doesn't mean we're not awake to the whole catastrophe, like you said, Mary. It doesn't mean like she's lost in that. She's having it with insight. The whole world is collapsing. The whole world is arriving. Yeah. Okay. I think we have to be done.
Can I just say a word?
Go ahead.
I haven't really studied a lot of the words of Katagiri Roshi, and Jodo Glyph is my teacher, and there's little stories here and there. But I have to say that your sharing of when you were going through such a struggle, and Katagiri Roshi spoke to you so clearly, I have to say, I feel he was also speaking to me, okay, in my hard times. I hope it's okay that I feel like you have transmitted that to me, that I can remember I am light, and it's hard, but it seems impossible, but you can do it, Paula, or it can be done through you, Paula. So I have to say that was a tremendous gift, in a way of passing on the lineage that I love. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, everybody. What a tender time we are having. Yeah.
Thank you, Myo-O. Obviously, you've brought up a lot of challenging things that we all face. So thank you for that. I just wanted to, our time is up, but I just wanted to say, I'm glad you brought up the idea that Mr. Huan was rude, right? Rude. I mean, doing a funeral service is not like a stress-free event. I haven't done too many, but when I do, you gotta be there. So, and you said, did he do this on purpose? Did Dawu bring Juan along on purpose? And I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't bring somebody along with me to a funeral who's going to, right in the middle of the family and the whole ceremony, knock on the coffin, start acting out. That wouldn't be my way. But in any event, I thought it was an interesting thing. I'm glad you mentioned. A little bit rude there. So that's, I'll leave it at that. And there's lots of things that could be said. Also, I'll just close with, I've appreciated your comment about intimacy. It's like, if we're not really intimate with the situation, it could turn into something dangerous. Just like this comment that Juan made, if he's not really there, it could be like a really disturbing event and dangerous. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you again. Future events coming up here at Hokyoji are, well, on Tuesday, an MCMC retreat begins. Probably registrations are closed for that event. We have 3 other events going on in September and October: a healing retreat, just sitting retreat, and a Wim Hof retreat. Wim Hof means, I think it means like emergency people coming together. They work on their breath to be able to function in a very, very stressful situation. So that's interesting for Hokyoji. In November, we have 2 new retreats, one with Raisei Mark Anderson, Naturally Awake. I'm going to let you find the dates for these. I'll just say the month. And also one with Gentle Dragon, Laura Kennedy. Her retreat is concentrating on this present moment. And in December 1 through 8, we have our Rohatsu coming up, of which Myo-O is going to be a co-leader with Kyoku, one of our Hokyoji residents. That's all I have to say. And as you all know, we depend on your generosity to keep Hokyoji sustainable. So if you'd like to make a donation, just go to our website and do so. Thank you. We'll close now with the 4 great vows. And apparently my bell is still not working so that you can hear it. I got a bigger bell this time, but that's not making a difference. So I'll have to get one of our tech experts down here sometime soon, and they're going to have to teach me what to do so you can hear the bell. Okay, so here we go. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Thank you all again for coming, and thank you once more for your talk. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.